Emily Lyon's bare feet slid against cold marble as the guards dragged her through the arched doors of the throne room. Silver manacles biting into her wrists. Incense and power clogged the air. Warriors lined the walls, their gazes sharp and unblinking, as firelight leapt across pillars carved with wolves frozen mid-hunt. Every flame pointed her forward, toward him. Smith Styles sat at the summit like a relic of conquest, crimson-trimmed black velvet and gold armor framing a body built for war. Scars cut across exposed skin. His molten amber eyes struck her chest with crushing force, her wolf screaming to submit.
She nearly did.
Nearly. When the steward announced her as lion payment, the guards shoved her forward and knelt. Emily didn't. She lifted her head instead and met the Alpha King's gaze, defiance burning through terror. The room stilled. Smith rose. The world seemed to contract around his presence as he descended, stopping inches from her. 3 nights, he said softly. My chambers. My rules. At dawn on the 4th day, you walk free. Unclaimed. She knew better than to trust in Alpha's mercy. Yet the chains, the watching warriors, and the dark hunger in his stare carved the truth into her bones. There was no escape. I accept, she said. His smile was slow. Predatory. Good, he murmured. Pray you survive them. Chapter 1. The King's Terms. The East Wing was a cage dressed in silk. Emily stood at its center, bare feet sinking into plush rugs that cost more than her family's land had ever earned, staring at walls draped in deep burgundy fabric that drank the firelight whole. Dark wood furniture gleamed like polished bone. The 4-poster bed loomed behind her, black velvet canopy embroidered with silver wolves frozen mid-prowl, their stitched eyes following her no matter where she moved. This can't be right, she said. Clara didn't look at her. The woman moved with brisk efficiency, lighting candles, straightening nothing that needed it. It's exactly right. The king wants you comfortable. He wants me compliant. A flicker passed over Clara's mouth. Almost a smile. That too. She gestured toward the open bath chamber, steam curling lazily into the air. Use the oils. He notices everything. And you smell like fear. I wasn't kept in a dungeon. Same thing in different stone. Clara opened the wardrobe, revealing gowns in cream, silver, midnight blue. Dinners in 2 hours. I won't eat. You will. Clara paused at the door. Honor the bargain, and you'll survive. Make the nights difficult, and you'll feel every minute of them. Then she was gone, the lock clicking softly behind her. Emily tested everything. The window sealed. The door locked. The bath inescapable. Trapped precisely as designed. The water was hot, scented with lavender and something darker. She sank into it, scrubbing until her skin burned, trying to wash away the knowledge that this comfort had been ordered, that someone had planned for her arrival. The wardrobe confirmed it. Gowns cut for her body. Silk and lace folded with intimate precision. He'd known. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, it sparked something sharp and dangerous. If he'd been watching, then he'd seen her defiance too, and chosen her anyway. She dressed in cream, modest but clinging, braiding damp hair when the door opened. Smith Styles filled the threshold, armor gone, velvet and crimson framing a predator carved into a king. His gaze swept over her and lingered. You chose that one. It was the least revealing. It's my favorite. His voice was calm, assured.
Seat.
We're going to talk. She hesitated until command laced his tone. Her body obeyed before pride could stop it. First rule, he said, pouring wine. When we're alone, you speak freely. Second, control your scent. I can't help being afraid. Yes, you can. When he spoke of chains and fear and killing his father, the room seemed to tilt. When he touched her shoulders, it was careful. When he taught her to close the door in her mind, the fear dulled. Why teach me this? She asked. Because cages exist on both sides of the bars, he said quietly. Emily ate because he told her to. She watched him because she couldn't stop. And for the first time, the thought frightened her more than the chains ever had. Chapter 2. Scent and Steel. Emily woke to sunlight spilling across her skin, warm and soft, and the startling realization that she had slept through the night.
No nightmares. No jolting panic.
Just deep, empty rest, as if her body had finally collapsed after holding itself rigid for years. She sat up slowly, disoriented by the luxury beneath her hands and the quiet humming calm inside her chest. Daylight revealed details she'd missed: the burgundy silk walls traced with gold vines, furniture carved by master hands, rugs so fine she almost hesitated to step on them. Everything whispered wealth, power, intention. A knock came, brief and perfunctory. Clara entered without waiting, bearing a breakfast tray and several narrow boxes. "The king expects you in the garden at noon," she said. "Until then, you rest and prepare." Prepare for what? Clara opened a box. Midnight blue spilled out like liquid night, the gown shimmering softly. Lunch, with the court. Emily's stomach tightened. That wasn't part of the bargain. "The private garden counts as his domain," Clara replied evenly. "And you'll be under his protection. That matters." Her gaze sharpened. "Control your scent. If you don't, others will test his claim." The warning lingered long after Clara left. Emily ate without tasting, dressed with steady hands, practiced the door in her mind until fear dulled to a distant echo. By the time she reached the garden entrance, she could almost breathe. Then she saw them. The garden was alive with wolves, alphas in tailored finery, betas moving quietly among them, omegas watching with careful eyes. The attention hit her like a wave, heavy and invasive. Smith stood at the center, black and crimson against green and marble. His gaze found her instantly. He crossed the space with effortless authority, offered his arm. When she took it, the contact grounded her, warm and unyielding. "I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to build walls," he murmured as they walked. "They need to see you protected. I feel exposed." "Then stay close." They sat apart from the crowd. He studied her, then spoke softly. "What do you see when you look at me?" She surprised herself with the truth. Someone dangerous. And lonely. Something eased in his expression, raw and unguarded. "Most never look past the crown. What happens after 3 nights?" she asked.
You leave.
"Free." She searched his face. "You don't want that." "No," he said simply. "But choice matters." Silence stretched, fragile and charged. "Teach me," she said at last. His smile was sharp, almost reverent. "Then we begin." Chapter 3. The Midnight Anchor. The second night found Emily on the balcony, moonlight washing the pack's territory in silver. The day had pressed her flat, meals beside Smith, council chambers thick with alpha scrutiny, corridors that felt less like hospitality and more like possession. Each time fear stirred, his presence had steadied her, a constant at her back. Now, alone, she felt the absence like a missing limb. The door opened softly. Smith stepped in, stripped of ceremony, dark trousers, unlaced shirt, scars pale under moonlight. He looked younger like this, less king, more man. "You didn't lock your door," he said. "Would it matter?" "No," he joined her at the railing. Heat bled from him, cedar and smoke curling into her breath. The contradiction returned, danger and safety entwined. "You held your door today," he said, even when Marcus spoke out of turn. Emily's hands tightened. "He talked about me like property." Smith's jaw set. "He won't again. I'm not yours." "For 3 nights," he said, turning fully to her. "You're my responsibility. I won't let anyone harm you." The certainty in his voice surprised them both. "Why?" she asked. "Why me?" "Because you refuse to kneel." His fingers traced her jaw, gentle enough to make her chest ache. "Because you see me." She swallowed. Show me. He hesitated, then opened his shirt. Moonlight mapped silver scars across him, thin, brutal, everywhere. He spoke of chains and full moons, of learning to survive by closing doors in his mind. Understanding settled cold and clear. He wasn't teaching her fear control. He was sharing the way he'd lived. Her hand found his chest. His heart raced beneath her palm. I want to kiss you, he said, honest and bare. One, she whispered. Then the truth. The kiss was careful, then consuming, hunger leashed by restraint. When they parted, breathless, his eyes burned. You quiet the wolf, he said. If you leave, I lose control. But I won't take your choice. The weight of it shook her. Then teach me, she said. Give me real choice. His smile was fierce and proud. One more night. He held her, heart steadying beneath her cheek. Hope, dangerous and bright, took root. One more night, she echoed. They both knew it wouldn't be enough. Chapter 4. The Shadow Coup. Emily woke on the third morning to chaos. Shouting echoed through the palace corridors, followed by the clash of steel and the distinctive snarls of wolves mid-shift. She bolted upright in bed, heart racing, just as the door to her chambers burst open. Clara stumbled in, blood streaking her temple.
Get dressed. Now.
Dark clothes, nothing that restricts movement. What's happening?
Cool.
The Northern Territories united with some Southern rebels. They're in the palace. Clara threw open the wardrobe, pulling out dark trousers and a fitted tunic. The king sent me to secure you. Move. Emily dressed with shaking hands, her mind racing. Smith had spent all of yesterday teaching her advanced techniques, how to project calm instead of fear, how to sense the emotional state of nearby wolves, how to anchor his wolf through proximity and scent. But nothing about what to do during an attack. Where's Smith? She demanded as Clara buckled a knife belt around her waist. Fighting in the Great Hall. There are at least 30 rebels, and they're coordinated. Clara grabbed her arm. He needs you stable and safe so he can focus on keeping them from the throne. They ran through corridors filled with smoke and the stench of blood. Emily's new skills kicked in automatically. She closed the door on her fear, projected steady calm, kept her breathing controlled even as they passed bodies of guards who hadn't made it. She could feel Smith's presence like a beacon somewhere below them, his wolf's rage a pulsing storm of violence barely contained. He was losing control. Clara, he needs his anchor. I have to get to him. Absolutely not. His orders were explicit. He's going feral. I can feel it. Emily yanked her arm free. If I don't reach him, he'll kill everyone. Rebels and loyalists alike. Clara's expression shifted from determination to calculation. You're sure you can anchor him? Even in the middle of battle? I don't know, but I have to try. A long moment passed, filled with distant screams and the crash of breaking furniture. Then Clara swore viciously and changed direction.
Fine.
But you do exactly what I say. They descended through servants' passages, Clara moving with the efficiency of someone who knew every hidden route in the palace. As they got closer to the fighting, Emily's new senses lit up like fire. She could feel Smith's wolf now, massive and murderous, hovering on the edge of complete savage release. And beneath it, barely a whisper, his human consciousness screaming for control. He was terrified, not of the rebels, of himself. Emily pushed forward, drawn by something deeper than reason. They emerged on a balcony overlooking the Great Hall, and the scene below stole her breath. Bodies littered the floor, rebels and guards both. Smith stood in the center of the carnage, half-shifted, his eyes fully wolf amber and glowing. 3 rebels circled him, weapons drawn, but they looked terrified. They understood what Emily could feel. This wasn't an alpha king defending his throne. This was an apex predator about to lose the last shreds of humanity. Smith. Emily's voice cut through the chaos. His head snapped up, those glowing eyes locking onto her. For a horrible second, she thought he didn't recognize her, that the wolf had completely taken over. Then she saw it, a flicker of the man she'd kissed last night, drowning beneath animal instinct. She did the only thing she could think of. She opened herself completely, dropped every shield and door she'd learned to build, and let her scent flood the hall. Not fear, not submission, but presence. Steady, certain, anchoring. The effect was immediate and devastating. Smith's half-shift reversed, his claws retracting, his eyes fading from pure wolf back to amber with human awareness. He swayed, and Emily saw the moment he registered the bodies around him, the blood on his hands, the horror of what he'd almost become. The rebels saw it too. They lunged, thinking him weakened. Emily screamed. Smith moved faster than possible, dispatching all three in seconds with brutal efficiency. But it was controlled violence now, precise and measured. The wolf was still there, but the man was in command. More rebels poured in from side entrances. Smith fought his way toward the balcony, toward Emily, his entire focus on reaching his anchor. Clara pulled Emily back from the railing, but Emily resisted. He needs to see me, needs to know I'm safe, or he'll lose it again. If a rebel gets up here, then you protect me. But I'm not hiding. The battle raged for what felt like hours, but was probably minutes. Smith's loyalists rallied. The rebels began to fall back. And through it all, Emily stood on that balcony, projecting every bit of calm and stability she'd learned, keeping Smith's wolf from consuming him. When the last rebel fell or fled, Smith was already climbing toward her, taking stairs 3 at a time. He reached the balcony covered in blood that might or might not be his own, breathing hard, eyes still carrying that amber glow. Emily. Her name was half growl, half prayer. She went to him without hesitation, let him crush her against his chest despite the gore, despite Clara's protest. His face buried in her neck, breathing her in with desperate intensity. I almost lost it, he rasped against her skin. I was going to kill them all. Guards, rebels, everyone. Then I heard you. I know. I felt it. Emily's hands slid into his hair, holding him close. But you didn't. You came back. Because of you. He pulled back enough to look at her, his expression raw with an emotion she couldn't name. You're not just my anchor, Emily. You're the only thing that makes me want to be human. The only reason I fight to stay in control. Smith. I love you. The words were brutal in their honesty, inappropriate given the corpses below, but utterly genuine. I know it's insane. I know it's been 3 days. But I have loved you since you refused to kneel, and I will love you until the day someone finally puts me down like the monster I am. Emily stared at him, this blood-soaked alpha king, who'd just confessed love in the middle of a coup attempt and felt her own walls shatter. She'd spent 3 days learning his scars, his trauma, his desperate fight to be better than his father. She'd seen him gentle and violent, controlled and feral, honest to the point of self-destruction. And somewhere in those 3 nights, she'd fallen too. The sun hasn't risen, she said softly. It's still the 3rd night. Technically dawn is 2 hours away. His grip tightened. But I'm not holding you to the contract anymore, Emily. Stay or go, but do it because you choose it. Not because of a bargain we made when you had no power. What if I choose to stay? Smith went very still. What? What if I choose you? Not for 3 nights, not until dawn. What if I choose this? She gestured between them. Permanently? You can't. You'd be trapped here, bound to a king who'll always be 1 step away from going feral, responsible for keeping me human. I'd be choosing my own fate. You said I was strong enough for that. Emily cupped his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. I spent my whole life being told my omega nature made me weak, made me property, made me less than. Then you showed me it could make me powerful. That I could be someone's anchor not because I'm weak, but because I'm strong enough to bear that weight. Emily, I love you too, you complicated disaster of an alpha king. And I choose to stay. Not for 3 nights. Forever. Smith kissed her like a man drowning who'd finally found air. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers, breathing hard. I'm going to mark you. Now. Tonight, before you can change your mind or I can wake up from this impossible dream. Yes. Once I do, there's no going back. You'll be tied to me forever. Queen to a king who killed his father and nearly slaughtered his own guards. Are you absolutely certain? Emily thought about her family who'd sold her, about the life of powerlessness she'd escaped, about the terrifying damaged man before her who'd given her real choice even when it cost him everything. She thought about 3 nights that had taught her more about her own strength than 20 years of being told she was weak. I've never been more certain of anything, she said. Mark me, Smith Styles. Make me your queen. His smile was fierce, possessive, and edged with a joy she'd never seen in him. With pleasure. Clara diplomatically turned away as Smith tilted Emily's head, exposing the traditional bonding spot where neck met shoulder. His fangs descended, and Emily felt a moment of primal fear before his lips brushed her skin and whispered, I'll be gentle. I promise. Then he bit down, and the world exploded into sensation. The bond snapped into place like a living thing, connecting them at a level deeper than thought. She could feel his wolf settle completely, content and anchored. Could feel his love, his obsession, his desperate relief that she'd chosen him. And underneath it all, his vow, to protect her, to value her, to spend every day proving she'd made the right choice. When he released her and licked the wound to seal it, Emily swayed. The bond was overwhelming, intense, but also right in a way she couldn't explain. Are you okay? Smith caught her, concerned. I can feel everything you feel. It fades slightly after the initial marking, becomes more of an awareness than constant emotion. His thumb traced the fresh mark, satisfaction radiating through the bond. How do you feel about being my queen? Emily tested the bond, sending her own emotions through it, love, certainty, a spark of amusement at his obvious possessive pride. Ask me again when you're not covered in rebel blood. Smith laughed, the sound startled and genuine.
Fair.
Clara, take the queen to the royal chambers. Have them prepared for both of us. And send for the healers. I want everyone injured treated immediately. The royal chambers? Emily asked as Clara led her away, fighting a smile. Presumptuous much? Through the bond, she felt his response. You chose forever, my queen. You're not sleeping anywhere but by my side from now on. Emily didn't argue. As dawn broke over the palace, as healers rushed to tend the wounded and guards secured the last of the rebels, she stood in chambers that would now be hers and felt the weight of her choice settle over her. She'd come here 3 nights ago as payment for her father's debt, expecting to be broken and discarded. Instead, she'd found an alpha king who'd taught her to be strong, shown her his deepest wounds, and given her the one thing no one else ever had, real choice. And she'd chosen him. Forever. Chapter 5. The Eternal Night. Dawn on what should have been the 4th day found Emily in the royal chambers, watching the sun rise over the pack's territory from windows that were now hers. The mark on her neck pulsed with warmth, a constant reminder of the bond that tied her to the alpha kin currently barking orders at his council 3 floors below. She could feel him through the bond, exhausted but controlled, angry at the betrayal but focused on securing the pack, and underneath it all, a deep contentment that she was here, safe, his. A knock interrupted her thoughts. Clara entered with breakfast and fresh clothing, her expression carefully neutral. The queen requires formal presentation to the pack, she said, setting down the tray. The king wants it done today, while the memory of last night's battle is fresh. Show them you're not just his omega. You're his equal, his anchor, his chosen queen. I'm not anyone's equal. I was a prisoner 3 days ago. You were payment for a debt 3 days ago. Now you're the woman who anchored a feral alpha king in the middle of a coup and chose to bond with him anyway. Clara's expression softened. The pack saw you on that balcony, Emily. Saw you stand firm while their king nearly went savage. Saw him come back to humanity because of your presence. That's not weakness. That's power. Emily processed this, the weight of her new role settling over her. What happens during a formal presentation? You'll stand beside the king before the assembled pack. He'll present you as his bonded queen and anchor. You'll need to project confidence, strength, and absolute certainty that you belong at his side. Clara pulled out a gown of deep crimson and gold. This is the queen's formal dress. It hasn't been worn since Smith's mother died 15 years ago. The gown was exquisite, regal, and designed to command attention. Emily let Clara help her into it, her mind drifting to Smith's stories about his father. The man had murdered his own mate when Smith was 5, claiming she'd made him weak. The dress had probably been packed away the day she died, waiting for whoever would be brave or foolish enough to stand beside the broken king who came after. I need to see Smith before the presentation, Emily said. He's still in council. I don't care. Emily turned, meeting Clara's eyes with the same defiance she'd shown in the throne room 3 days ago. I'm his queen and his anchor. If he's still dealing with coup aftermath while exhausted, I need to be there. That's my job now. Clara's lips twitched into an almost smile. As you command, my queen. They found Smith in the war room, surrounded by maps and reports, arguing with his advisors about how to handle the northern territories that had supported the coup. He looked haggard, still in the blood-stained clothes from last night, running on fury and duty. The moment Emily entered, his head snapped up. The bond flared between them, and she felt his exhaustion, his anger, his relief at seeing her. Everyone out, he said, eyes never leaving Emily. His advisors scrambled to obey, Clara closing the door behind them. The moment they were alone, Smith crossed to her, pulling her into his arms with desperate intensity. You should be resting, he murmured against her hair. So should you. Emily pushed back enough to look at his face, at the dark circles under his eyes and the tension in his jaw. When did you last sleep? Doesn't matter. I need to secure the pack, deal with the traitors, reinforce our borders. Smith. She cupped his face, forcing him to focus on her. You're no good to the pack if you collapse from exhaustion. Come with me. I can't. There's too much. Emily pulled him through the bond, flooding it with calm and certainty. His words died, replaced by a long exhale. She'd learned this technique last night, how to use the bond to ground him, to cut through the alpha drive that would push him until he broke. 2 hours, she said firmly. We eat, you bathe, we rest. Then you can go back to being the alpha king. But right now you're my bonded mate, and I'm pulling rank. Smith stared at her, something between awe and amusement flickering across his exhausted face. Pulling rank? You've been queen for 6 hours. And I'm already better at taking care of you than you are at taking care of yourself. She took his hand, tugging him toward the door. Come on. Your council can wait 2 hours to be terrified of you. He let her lead him back to the royal chambers, and Emily realized this was what it meant to be his anchor. Not just standing on balconies during battles, but also knowing when to pull him back from the edge of his own destructive dedication. Being strong enough to make him rest, to make him human, to remind him he was more than just the Alpha King. In their chambers, Emily made him sit while she personally prepared a bath, adding oils that would ease the tension in his muscles. When she turned back, Smith was watching her with an expression that made her heart skip. What? She asked. I'm waiting to wake up. For this to be a dream, or a cruel trick, or... It's not. Emily crossed to him, settling on his lap and wrapping her arms around his neck. I'm real. This is real. You're stuck with me forever, Smith Styles. Best thing that's ever happened to me. He buried his face in her neck, right against his mark, and breathed her in. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you got me anyway. She ran her fingers through his hair, feeling him finally start to relax. We'll figure out together. How to rule, how to manage your wolf, how to be king and queen instead of captor and captive. You were never my captive. Not really.
No.
Emily pulled back to look at him. 3 nights, your rules, my family's lives hanging in the balance. You could have left yesterday. After the second night, after I taught you everything I knew, you could have walked away, and I would have kept my word. His eyes searched hers. But you stayed. Not because you were trapped, but because you chose to. I chose you, Emily corrected. The complicated, damaged, occasionally terrifying Alpha King who gave me real choice even when it destroyed him. Smith kissed her, slow and deep, pouring everything he felt through the bond. Love, gratitude, possessive pride, and underneath it all, the ever-present hunger that she was learning to recognize not as threat but as passion. When they broke apart, Emily stood and held out her hand.
Bath. Now.
Then food, rest, and we'll face the pack presentation together. Bossy, Smith said, but he took her hand. I'm the queen. It's my job. They bathed together, Emily washing the blood from his skin with gentle efficiency, while Smith watched her with an intensity that made her blush. He insisted on returning the favor, his hands reverent as they traced her curves, the bond pulsing with contentment. After, wrapped in robes and eating the food Clara had left, Smith told her everything that had happened during the coup. The Northern Territories had been planning this for months, waiting until Smith's wolf instability reached a critical point. They'd expected him to go fully feral during the battle, to lose himself and make it easy to overthrow him. They hadn't anticipated Emily. The pack is calling you the Wolf's Grace, Smith said, surprising her. The Omega who saved the Alpha King from himself. There are already songs being written. That's ridiculous. It's accurate. He pulled her against his chest, settling them both on the massive bed. You did save me, Emily. In every way a person can be saved. She felt his exhaustion through the bond, the way his body was finally allowing itself to rest now that she was close.
Sleep.
I'll wake you before the presentation. Stay with me. Always. Smith fell asleep with his arms around her, his face peaceful for the first time since she'd met him. Emily lay awake, listening to his heartbeat, feeling the bond pulse between them, and marveled at how much had changed in 3 nights. She'd come here expecting death or destruction. Instead, she'd found purpose, power, and a love that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. When Clara came to wake them 2 hours later, Emily dressed in the Queen's formal gown while Smith donned fresh royal attire. They stood before the mirror together, the golden-haired Omega and the scarred Alpha King, the anchor and the wolf, the captive who'd become queen. Ready? Smith asked, offering his arm. Emily took it, feeling the bond settle into certainty. Ready. The pack presentation was held in the Great Hall, hastily cleaned of last night's carnage. Every wolf in the territory who could travel had come, packing the massive space to capacity. They fell silent as Smith and Emily entered, climbing the steps to the throne. Smith's voice rang out, alpha command that ensured every wolf heard him clearly. 3 nights ago, Emily Lyon was brought before this throne as payment for her father's debt. Today, she stands beside me as my bonded queen, my anchor, and my chosen mate. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Smith continued, his hand finding Emily's and squeezing. Last night, rebels tried to take this throne by exploiting my wolf's instability. They failed because of Emily's courage, her strength, and her choice to stand as my anchor when she could have let me fall. His eyes swept the crowd. Any wolf who questions her right to stand beside me questions my judgment as your Alpha King. And I promise you, I am far more stable with her at my side than I ever was alone. Emily felt the weight of hundreds of eyes assessing her. She drew on every lesson Smith had taught her, closed the door on her fear, and projected the confidence of a woman who belonged exactly where she was. I was born an Omega, she said, her voice carrying through the sudden silence. I was taught that made me weak, made me property, made me less than. Your king showed me that strength isn't about designation. It's about choice. I chose to stand beside him. I chose to anchor his wolf. I chose to be your queen. And I will spend every day proving that choice was right. The silence stretched. Then, from somewhere in the crowd, a wolf howled, the pack's way of showing approval. Another joined, then another, until the entire hall echoed with the sound of acceptance. Smith pulled her close, kissing her before the entire pack, his pride and love radiating through the bond so strongly she thought she might drown in it. When they broke apart, he whispered against her lips, "Still think 3 nights wasn't enough?" Emily smiled, fierce and certain. 3 nights was just the beginning. We have forever now. Forever, Smith agreed. As the pack celebrated below them, as wolves who doubted her just days ago now howled their acceptance, Emily stood beside her alpha king and felt the weight of her choice settle into peace. She'd been sold as payment for a debt, expected to be broken and discarded. Instead, she'd become the wolf's grace, the queen who'd anchored a feral king and chosen her own destiny. The 3rd night had become eternal. And Emily Lyon, once powerless Omega, now had all the power in the world, because she'd chosen to stand beside the one person who'd never wanted to take it from her. The debt was paid, the bargain fulfilled, but the obsession remained, transformed from dark possession into chosen devotion. And in the end, that made all the difference.
The end.
Thank you for watching. Kindly like, follow, and stay tuned for more beautiful story.